sword and shield, or would he be disappointed of the badly knitted woolen tunic like last year? "What are you doing up here, Pod?" His sister had tiptoed up the stairs and was now glaring at him. Polkin's little brother Pook was nestled in the crook of her arm, chewing away at the carrot. "Mother sent me to get you. They're about to have turnip soup and dance the bramble reel. You should be there, seeing as you're next in line to be chief." Paz took it hard that she was never going to lead the warren, even though she was the eldest. But it was tradition. Fair or not, the first son took over. Polkin yawned deliberately. "Oh, the bramble reel. How exciting." He took Pook from her and tickled his tummy. He could hear all the festivities in the hall below and had absolutely no desire to join in with them at all. "Please stand aside so I can rush down the stairs and prance around like a prize pudding." "If you don't come down, you're going to be in trouble," said Paz. "Do you have any idea what it takes to be a chieftain? Nobody would want to follow a lord who spends all his time tickling his baby brother, playing with toys and hiding away in corners daydreaming." Polkin huffed, flicked his ears at his sister. "You're just jealous because you think you would make a better chieftain than me." "Well, I would, wouldn't I? Anyone can see that." Paz started ticking off the list on her fingers. "I'm the eldest. I do what Mother and Father tell me. I go to all my lessons instead of hiding in the meadow and picking daisies like a rat-brained fairy flump. If there was any justice, girls would be allowed to become chief instead of brats like you who don't deserve it." Polkin was about to leap on Paz and pull her ears around the warren horn began to sound. The 3 young rabbits rushed to the edge of the gallery and looked down onto the hall. Soldiers were grabbing spears and shields. Children would be herded into the corners, and their father, Chief Lopkin, was striding towards the burrow entrance, drawing his sword, his great broadsword that everyone thought was magical. "My winter rabbit! My winter rabbit!" Pook shouted, trying to wiggle free. "It's not the midwinter rabbit, Pook," said Polkin, the argument with Paz forgotten. "It looks like trouble, and trouble doesn't leave presents outside your burrow tonight." Frightened murmurs were drifting up from the crowd below. A lone rider coming, and that's a rider wearing armour, iron armour. And finally, "It's the Gorm are here." This last shout caused mass panic. Polkin could see his father shouting, but his voice was swallowed up by the hubbub. The warren was terrified, losing its head. This was the time it really needed its chieftain, somebody to lead them all. Pod watched Lopkin breathe deeply, then bellow in his silent, commanding voice, "Silence!" The whole Longburrow instantly froze. Hundreds of scared eyes turning to Lopkin, who stood amongst them, his magic sword flashing. He let the silence stand for a moment before speaking in a calm voice as he could. "A rider approaches. True. A Gorm. True. But it is a lone rider, and he carries the white flag of peace. We will let him enter and see what he has to say." The sound of the heavy oak entrance doors open echoed down the warren. The rabbits in the long burrow pressed back against the walls, spears were raised, breath was held. Something was making its way along the entrance hall. "Will it be okay, Paz?" whispered Polkin. He'd always been in awe of his tall, powerful father. He had always seemed invincible, at least until now. "I don't know, Pod," Paz replied. "Father has his sword." The look in her eyes was enough to make Polkin truly afraid for the first time in his short life. Chief Lopkin called out the traditional greeting in the darkness of the tunnel. Enter, stranger, and be welcome to this Bramblemas Eve. Clank. Screech, grinding metal, followed by the clump of heavy leather boots. It seemed the rider had dismounted. Whatever had been carrying him was now coming down the entrance tunnel on foot. 155 terrified rabbits all held their breath. Clank. Screech. Poor Pookie began whimpering. They could see something moving in the darkness of the tunnel. Torchlight from the great hall caught on metal and bounced back in orange glints. Enter, Lotkin called out. We mean you no harm. With a final grinding squeal, the figure emerged and leapt from the tunnel to the land in the centre of the warriors' circle. The rabbits all heard terrified